going on, everybody? Welcome back to another exciting and analytical breakdown of Fantasy Suites, or as Michelle mentioned, overnights. We have a fantastic episode. The one, the only, returning back to the show for his Bachelorette recap premiere, the delightful and full of anxiety and nostalgia, Rod Thill. Welcome back, Rod.
Hello.
Before we get to Rod in the breakdown, just a couple quick housekeeping notes. Tomorrow, or depending on when you're listening to this, we have a fantastic episode about dreams. Blew my mind. We have so many thoughts of what dreams mean, and so many people telling you, and it's always your friends. Your friends are always thinks they're experts on your dreams and what they mean. And, we brought an actual expert. The wonderful Ian Wallace joins us. Very kind and insightful man when it comes to dreams. You won't want to miss that. That is out on Wednesday, probably out now, depending on when you're getting to this episode. So be sure to check that out. Also joined by my assistants, Allie and Amanda. Ladies, how are you? Welcome to the couch.
Magical. I love it when it rains in LA.
Yeah, I'm really quite enjoying the rain.
Awesome.
It's really quite
I really
great.
enjoy it. It's very comforting.
I'm a little bummed that we had to come into work today because, it's kind of nice to
I wanted to just look out my window.
Yeah, you wanted to just put on sweats and be productive from
Absolutely.
the couch, but here we are because the people need to hear our opinions.
We are essential workers in the rain.
We are essential workers when it comes to the Bachelorette.
People need to know.
Well, I was wrong. Joe does not win. So my bad, my B.
It's I don't think Nate's going to have a crack. I think Nate's
it's
very
interesting.
solid.
So we're interviewing the runner-up after AFR, just a heads up. And we're interviewing Brandon, right? She was just hey, Nate, I'm in love with you. And we had some strong things to say after Hometowns about her relationship with Nate, which is basically hey, it seems like maybe one of the men who knows Nate the most is just not ready for love. And I don't know if the Bachelorette is the first environment in which you would want to trust someone's feelings about love. And then you take Michelle into account and how pragmatic and thoughtful and deliberate she is with her choices. And yet it's almost kind of poetic because, hey, you could be all those things that Michelle clearly is, but still be human and make choices that, we can sit here and debate. I don't know. Let's just say it's a risk. I mean, I've always said this show, whoever you pick, if you're the lead, it is a massive leap of faith. So at the end of the day, you're just going to pick who you like the most and hope for the best. You don't exactly go I like Joe the third most, but I do see a healthier relationship. I don't know. Let's just start at the end, Rod. What were your predictions going into this episode? And were you surprised that Joe went home?
We had the same prediction, even from episode 1. I thought Joe was going to be the one. I mean, their story was too dynamic not to be her keeping him on. There's too much at stake for him, at least not to go to final 2. So I was shocked that he was to go home. This whole dynamic of this top 3 is giving me copy paste from last season, from Katie's season. Greg going home and then Justin, who's great, but it just the dynamic wasn't there. It's Justin would be Brandon, right? And then obviously she's going to pick Nate. So you said, you're interviewing Brandon next week,
right? I'm excited to interview Brandon because I feel like Brandon has a lot to say and he's passionate about love. I don't know if I
wish the final 3 could go to the men's hall too, because I feel like they have, this they want to talk about the drama and stuff too. And I feel like he has a lot to say about what happened in the house too.
Well, we'll hopefully get those questions answered on this podcast. So be sure to tune in. I don't know if I necessarily agree with, we love Justin. I've met Justin once. Charming, delightful, beautiful man. But I definitely believe that there is a real connection between Michelle and Brandon. And you could convince me that Katie didn't know Justin's name when she sent me home. So I definitely don't know if those are the same. No disrespect. I don't want to like.
It's clear. It's very clear that it's going to be Nate.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. I think, like you said too, it's just like he can't be this far removed from what he wants this late in the game.
Yeah, we had to address the top of the show. Do we have any like hot goss we need to cover before we break down the episode itself?
Like a little bit of hot goss, not like the most dynamic week in Bachelor Nation.
That's okay. They can't always come in hot.
They can't always be so
I feel
juicy.
like it needed to cool off.
Yeah. Rod's buddies all went to the Dominican Republic. So we got Andrew S., we got Justin, Trey, Aaron, Clay, and Mike P.
Okay.
They did a lot of photo shoots, got a lot of TikToks, living their best life.
They love a photo shoot.
They love a good photo shoot. Andrew S. also posted on his story a photo of, the Dominican Republic, and he captioned it, "To my crush, this is for you." So that's either Rod or a woman.
Although
we don't know.
Natalie showed me that one, and I just thought didn't he like put the focus on the sunset? It was quite.
I mean, yeah, it's gone now.
It was a very artistic, influential post.
Yeah.
I was like, damn. Okay.
Yeah.
Hearts across the nation are gonna break.
It was. I was a little jelly of the creativity that Andrew had. So
Anna Redmond declined to comment on if she's dating someone in Bachelor Nation. So
in
people,
Chicago.
Yeah,
and
she declined to comment.
Yeah, she was. They were like, "Are you dating anyone from Bachelor Nation in Chicago?" And she was like, and like ducked away from the camera.
Yep.
Yeah, so probably not. So she's probably not dating someone.
I'm loving this. What do they call themselves? This
the controversial crew.
Controversial crew. That's what a name.
What a name.
What a name.
Are they calling themselves that now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Did you not see the TikTok?
Oh, they've embraced it now.
Mm-hmm.
They're truly desperate at this point. Just a bunch of people latching on to no one liking Katie. It's like they're so desperate for relevancy, they would rather jump on the Katie's hatred and be like, I'll take some of that hatred rather than no one talking about me at all.
Abigail posted on Instagram, our girl Abigail, long post about confidence and how she's grown. And for the first time ever, she like showed her implant in a photo, and it was like a very nice moment. So props to Abigail. We love her.
Props to Abigail.
Are
her and Noah still dating?
Yes.
Good for them.
Yes.
It seems to be.
And the top two moments, I would say, of the week, Ben Higgins calling out Colton for saying that Colton was like the only person who's, I'm in touch with in Bachelor Nation right now is Chris Harrison. He was like the only one to reach out to me, like when I came out to offer his support. And
That's
Ben Higgins was like, I reached out to you and like fully sent you a book that was like how to come out in a Christian environment, like was trying to help you. And like, so Ben's
His
like,
comments say otherwise. There's a lot of people that commented. I didn't even think I saw some comments that even said like just sent you a DM or something like that.
Yeah. So clearly Chris Harrison was not the only one to reach out.
Let me look for mine. Oh, here we go. Yep.
Oh.
Let's see, April 14th, 7:30 a.m. I don't know if that's the day of his Good Morning America appearance, but I believe it was. Congrats, bud. Hope you're in a happier place.
That seems like a reach out if I've
with a heart. He hearted it immediately.
That sounds like support if I've ever heard it.
So he saw it.
Absolutely.
And then said, "Thank you, man. I'm doing so good and happy." I said, "Great to hear. Rooting for your happiness." He's just a liar.
Does he have your contact saved as Chris Harrison? Maybe was that the confusion?
I don't know. Maybe it was
trying to think here.
It was a DM.
Okay.
It was on Instagram.
Great.
And I don't know. It's weird when people lie about little things they don't need to lie for attention.
Are we ready for our final?
We have more
of the week? Yes. So, we broke down the whole Kaitlyn, Tayshia, men tell all situation. Tayshia, tell you're not wearing your ring, whatever. This girl, Morgan, who is makes videos about pop culture, basically posted that moment on her Instagram story and was like, this is so fake, blah, 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 blah. And Kaitlyn actually saw the story and sent her like 3 long DMs. Like Morgan had to scroll, she said.
Kaitlyn like responded to her.
Yes. And was like, it felt really staged to me too. It like felt like a very scripted moment. Kaitlyn said it's really been hard for her because for the past 6 years, she's been able to like be herself and build her own brand and identity. And now she has this professional role with certain like requirements. She said that the moment was created and like desired by Tayshia and the producers, like they wanted it in there. And that apparently it was thrown into the Men Tell All really late, which is why Kaitlyn was like
asked for it.
Kaitlyn said it was created by Tayshia and the producers.
So she wasn't necessarily set up by the producers like we thought.
Or she was involved in the process. Like
She was
went
a,
along with it.
willing
A
participant.
willing participant.
So she was like, you know what? Not interested in looking like a host today. I want to be Tayshia the Bachelorette today.
Yeah. So Kaitlyn was saying, she was like, it felt weird to me because like originally Kaitlyn was reading it off the teleprompter, which goes along with her saying it was like added really last minute. And then she's like, and that's why I pivoted to then look at Tayshia because it felt so weird to me to be like delivering these like hard-hitting questions from a teleprompter. Yeah.
Caitlyn put this out like via text.
That's what I'm shocked at.
In the internet.
And Morgan asked her, she was like, hey, I like also run a podcast. I would love to talk about this. Are you okay with me sharing these DMs? And Kaitlyn said yes. So it's not like Morgan just like screenshotted it and blasted it. Like she asked permission.
Well, I guess Kaitlyn's next thing is Dancing with the Stars, right? So maybe she's just like, you know what? But
yeah, the tour. Yeah.
Interesting. So like, also this probably just confirms that Kaitlyn and Tayshia are not going to be hosting the next season of The Bachelorette. I mean, are we overstating this is like full on anarchy? Like that's a bit.
Yeah, I feel like
take it down.
It's a bit much. I mean, I'm probably, but like that's a lot to like. Who's this Morgan person?
She does TikTok videos.
Too?
She's on TikTok.
Okay.
She's like a pop culture kind of like host thing. I actually like edit the videos for my other job on YouTube.
But like, does she?
Michael talked to her once too. Michael did a. Yeah, Michael's on a podcast.
Are her and Kaitlyn friends?
No, she even said on her podcast, she's like, I'm not verified on Instagram. She was like, I'm a girl who lives alone, makes no money making these videos. I eat like frozen takeout or like food every week. And suddenly Kaitlyn Bristow's in my DMs.
She's a radio DJ, I think, too.
Wow. But like, obviously Kaitlyn has a massive platform. She has a podcast of her own, very successful. Like it's interesting that she chose to give this girl this information. And I mean, she didn't like talk shit, but she definitely threw Tayshia under the bus, right? Like,
I mean, she at least acknowledged that Tayshia was part of the creation of the moment.
But with the full, I mean, is it too much to say that like we can now confirm that it was completely staged and the walk-off was total bullshit?
We don't know if the walk-off was bullshit, but
I will say, like,
if you go to the producer and say, "Hey, I want this TV moment," I mean, the whole thing is from start to end. It's
Kaitlyn did seem like very genuine because, like, I mean, you know, like you were in theater, Nick. Like, you can tell when things are acting.
I mean, I've taken acting classes. I wish I took theater in high school.
Oh, you've taken acting classes, and it was just so. You can tell Kaitlyn's versus what she's done in the past. You can tell how genuine that whole moment for her was. The shock and like, we're going to give Tayshia a moment. Like that seemed very genuine that she didn't know what was going on.
So maybe the moment was created, but the walk-off was even a surprise to Kaitlyn.
Well, not an alliance. There's not a united front with the hosts of The Bachelorette.
And Kaitlyn's just jumping into random people's DMs and spilling the tea.
So I'm not going to lie. I'm a little sus about that.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
I just don't. I mean, you guys know her better than I do, but I don't think that she would just like open up like that and send like 4 things of DM. There has to be other conversations.
It seems bizarre that she was just like, you know what? I'm gonna just give this person that has a platform who talks about Bachelor. It's pretty good tea. It's piping hot.
Piping hot.
Like,
because on Instagram you can unsend messages too. So maybe Morgan like sent her some like prying questions, you know, all this stuff, and then unsent the messages and like that.
Because you could sell me on like maybe Kaitlyn's just like, I need to get this out there. It just feels wrong. I don't like that I was a part of it. So she DMs Morgan, this Morgan person, and says, "Hey, I'd really appreciate it. I'm going to show you some things. You can call me a source, you know." Wow. But please don't share my text. But no.
She fully said it was
okay.
Like,
blast it have it go viral. Wow. Okay.
So that's your weekly tea.
Well, thanks for confirming, Kaitlyn, what we suspected, I guess.
Exactly.
What we didn't know. Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'll be sad to see them go. Like, I didn't think they were set up to do well as hosts for these past 2 seasons. But like, even just for fantasy suites, like seeing a card signed from like the 2 of them, it's so much more like fun than when it's like Chris Harrison, like authority figure, give you permission to have sex versus like 2 girls being like, have an amazing night.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that like have, it's going to be weird when Jesse Palmer's like, hey guys, go fucking the fantasy suites. But yes, I think from a friend, I mean, the whole fantasy suite day card is weird in general. And yes, I agree. They weren't set up to succeed as hosts. And I think it's clunky to have two.
I think too, it's been cool to see, especially like, I love when Tayshia and Kaitlyn like call out the men on their bullshit. Like they're like more Kaitlyn than Tayshia, but like you're being like they did it with, I forgot who they did it with Katie's season, with like you're being an ass.
Yeah, I like that too, and I wish they would lean into that more. I don't suspect they will. I think they're going to go back to Jesse Palmer just reminding people who can't count how many roses there are, and then that will be pretty. Clayton will be like, "Has everyone ever done this?" And Jesse will be like, "I don't know. Has anyone? No, sorry, no one's ever given a rose back." And that'll be probably, my guess is the extent of the hosting responsibilities. Well, who knows? I mean, I was wrong about Joe, so I could be.
All bets are off.
Yeah,
all bets are off.
Well, it's the holidays, and family is nice, but also they create mental health problems for us at times. I don't know. Maybe your family's great, but there's a lot of it's a lot sometimes to go home for the holidays and have mom ask you why you're not married yet. And if that's the case, BetterHelp is here for you to help navigate the mental health crisis that sometimes can be your family. And if it's not your family, maybe it's money or it's stress, or maybe you just want to talk to someone or whatever it is. You don't need a reason to speak to a therapist or a mental health professional. You just have to find one. And it's always helpful. We're big advocates of it on the Viall Files, and BetterHelp is helping people connect with therapists easier than ever. You can start communicating with one in under 48 hours. It's not a crisis line. It's not a self-help line. It's professional counseling done securely online. They have a broad range of expertises available, which may not be locally available in your area. Now, the service is available for clients worldwide. You can use it from the comfort of your home, on your phone, your computer, tablet, whatever, just as long as you have the old internet. And it's great. So if you ever needed a reason, or have you ever thought about therapy or talking with a counselor, think of BetterHelp. That's right. Visit betterhelp.com/VIALLFILES. That's betterhelp.com/viallfiles. And that's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, and join over the 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health with the help of an experienced professional. In fact, so many people have been using BetterHelp that they are recruiting additional counselors in all 50 states. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and Viall Files listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/viallfiles. And all you Match 3 lovers out there, do I have a great game for you. Switchcraft. That's right. It's an amazing game. So much fun. Switchcraft is a brand new take-on Match 3 game. As you play, you unlock pieces of a beautiful, magical, and gripping graphic novel. It is a mobile game with a unique blend of TV-worthy writing, choose-your-own-adventure style narratives, and thousands of magical Match 3 levels. I mean, I love it. I'm obsessed. Can't put it down. And it's fun. It's engaging. Yeah, the writing is great. It's gripping. It really is gripping.
And we love the LGBT characters. Very fun to have some representation there.
Yeah, they have representation. So if you want to support a game that is cognizant of representation, think of Switchcraft. In Switchcraft, you can take on the role of a witch at Pendleton Hill, the world's top academy of witchcraft, or play your way through 100 of enchanting Match 3 levels, revealing a dark and windy mystery story. Either way, it's wild, it's fun, you'll love it. There's something for everyone with Switchcraft. Download Switchcraft for free and unlock the magical mystery.
Let's get into the episode itself. Let's see. I was right away, and obviously I feel like, we know that Joe went home, and so we're recapping this knowing this, but I will say I was getting nervous as the episode opened up, and I wonder for all the historians out there who watch it back, and they don't always have to air it in order, but they usually do. Having been on the Bachelorette twice and been the runner-up twice, I got the first fantasy suite twice. Brandon, we used to assume is going to be the runner-up. He got the first fantasy suite. Everyone that I can remember, I think it's been like a dead giveaway that the first fantasy suite is the runner-up. Person going third is sandwiched in the middle, and the person who, Vanessa was my last, Raven was first. I don't know if it's always been the case. I'd be curious for any of the historians out there, has that tell me a time when that wasn't the case. I'm not I'm curious because I'm watching it, and when Brandon got the first fantasy suite date, that was my first like, trigger. That's just like, oh my god, is Brandon going to be number 2? And then I was immediately concerned for Joe. Well, I was on the fence because last week there was what seemed to be some clear red flags for Nate, and that was the first sign of trouble for Joe for me. But they go on the date, and it was. Yeah, I think we've all. I don't know about you, Rod, but like, we never like. Unlike Justin, they have an amazing connection, Michelle and Brandon. Like, it's clear. Like, you can't deny that. Brandon is infusive with his words, and yet, I don't know what it is about that relationship that I just haven't been like ever thought that he was a legit contender for Michelle's heart.
Yeah. Because I'm kind of wondering if it's like a production thing, right? Where she just hasn't gotten as much screen time and there's not things that we're seeing on screen. But I definitely agree I thought it was Joe going in, like we said. But obviously with Nate or Nathaniel or whatever you want to call him, he has gotten the most screen time since day one. I feel like. So I think that could be it, is we're just not seeing as much of Brandon, but there is just definitely something as the viewer on the show that we're not seeing the connection that would lead him to be the winner of the show.
Is it because he's had a decent amount of airtime. He got like, didn't he get 2 group date roses in a row? That's pretty significant.
That's the first time it's ever happened.
Okay, there you go. Is it just the baby face?
It could be the baby face. And I think look at the drama of this season and how strong of personalities. I feel like his personality, he has a great personality, but kind of similar to Greg, I guess, where he's not like yelling in people's faces, and he's not in the drama and the weeds that would cause him to be like at the top of someone's mind.
Yeah. Anyway, so they had their date, it seems. And Brandon, he's good with his words. Very, very charming.
He seems authentic and just like,
he's very thoughtful with his words. Yeah. Like every word. Yeah. There was a point in this episode, Natalie and I were watching it. By the time Nate, am I the only one who didn't love Nate this episode?
It was the way he was acting around the men that gave me kind of weird vibes.
Yeah, it was this. I like Nate. I've been a fan of Nate. If Nate doesn't win, or if Nate didn't win, we're just gonna assume. I might go 0 for 2 and be like, Nate's gonna come in. I'm gonna interview him and be like, oh, sorry, it was Brandon the whole time. I was way off. But if Nate didn't win, I think he could have been the Bachelor. We've been very critical about Clayton, right? And our friend of show, Mina Kimes, her and I were messaging, and she said, I think Nate wins because if Nate didn't win, I could see him as the Bachelor. And that made me think, okay, we've been highly hypercritical of, the choice to pick Clayton. You have 3, strong candidates for the Bachelor in their final 4. Why didn't you pick them? But if and like they're all nice men, but when you think about picking the Bachelor, it is different than picking like, it's not about just 4 nice men or the winner. But like Joe, for specifically, beautiful, love Joe, but Joe is not Bachelor material because he is just too quiet and too introverted for that role. I mean, it's just, you have to talk a lot. I mean, that's the whole damn show, and that would just be too hard. And so Mina mentioned that to me, and that was like, she made a really good point when she said that. It was like, maybe Nate does win, because maybe Nate would have been up for consideration had Michelle not picked him.
Yeah, I think with Nate too, he would have been a good Bachelor. It could be a good winner of the show as well, because he, like we saw with his stepdad, where he said that he's never said "I love you" to him, and he has a really hard time opening up. So I think that could be really good.
And the Bachelor producers love casting a boy. I mean, they love to watch a guy who has very limited love experience, a la Sean Lowe, and they love that. So I don't even know what love is. It is their bread and butter. They do really like that.
Yeah, it's like they want the most manly looking man ever, but they want him to be like phase 1
to learn about love.
Evolution.
Yeah, they do quite like that. So maybe that is very possible that it could have been Nate. That all being said, he kind of rubbed me the wrong way this episode. What about you, Rod?
Yeah. I definitely thought my favorite from this episode was Brandon, and just the way he spoke to Michelle. And I think that was it was interesting to see, because before it's usually been Nate or Joe that I've thought was the front runner. But yeah, it wasn't the vibes, I guess we're going to say it in Gen Z terms. But I do think it's interesting because I can't see Nate as a Paradise contestant, but I could see Joe as a Paradise contestant, or even Brandon.
Wait, what do you mean you don't see Nate as a Paradise contestant?
I'm saying like with The Bachelor from an outside perspective, I'm watching the show and I'm like, okay, well, like Rodney's going to Paradise. They already like kind of preface that in the mental. But with Nate, it's like, no, he is material for like the love one-on-one Bachelor show, not like the Paradise messy, thrown into it.
I mean, I would disagree on that in the sense that what Nate has written Nate has the Blake, Brandon of the past, the fan favorite, but residence of a fuckboy that you don't fully see on his season of The Bachelorette, comes down to Paradise thinking he's hot shit, thinking like this is going to be my audition for The Bachelor, and having like hooked up with 3 or 4 women from other seasons on Paradise and gets the fuckboy edit. Like Michelle picking Nate just saved him. If he wasn't The Bachelor, a really bad edit in about a year would be my prediction. But yeah, so Brandon at some point says to Michelle, is some version of like now that I know you and that I'm in love with you, my heart, my soul starts and stops with you, and just poetic things. I don't know if you had any of them written down. What did you say?
I do.
Oh, you do. You do. There you go.
Yeah.
Brandon. Go ahead, Allie.
Oh, no. Well, just Brandon said that he is so lucky. Every time I'm with you, my heart grows. I don't want to be with anyone else other than you. And she asked if it was realistic for Brandon to get to the point of an engagement. And he was like, from day one, when I met you, I knew that you were the one. It hit when we were getting ice cream. I'm in love with you. I'm truly in love with you. I will always put you first. It was a lot of love.
And then
I could see Michelle being the person push me out of my comfort zone, I think he said.
Yeah.
I knew what to say. It's almost like he got the notes from that guy the first episode where they found his notes.
And then fast forward to Nate's date on the catamaran, or before Michelle had to like pull all those words out of Nate at dinner. Nate says to Michelle, "You're something else." Like, what is that?
Right.
Like if you're on a date and you guys are like, "Oh, you're something else."
But like, forget being on a date. Pretend you're a week away from getting engaged, and he says, "You're something else."
You're something else. You.
Oh, you.
You're something.
But yeah, that's the thing about Nate though, is that he pulls it off. Like I think if
he pulls it off.
I think if Nate was too effusive with praise, it would read as like, I'd be like, oh, this guy knows what he's doing. Like he's done this before.
He does look like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
Because look where we're at already, thinking that Brandon isn't going to win.
Yeah, right?
It's like he got us. Nate got us.
Nate is 6'7". He's beautiful. He's got, I've never seen someone pull off a nose ring like Nate. It's beautiful. Every time I see Nate in his nose ring, I'm like, that's so cool.
Yeah.
He looks so cool.
Historically fuckboy material, but for him, he just makes it, like with I did the first impressions of her cast and I was like, okay, fuckboy. But
so you're convinced that Nate, and when I say fuckboy, I don't mean Martin fuckboy. I just mean his stepdad confirmed that Nate is in a period of his life where he's focused on his professional career. He's out there dating. He's going out, and good for him. He's just like casually dating. And
if you're paddleboarding 3 to 4 times a week, you don't have time for much else.
It's just fucking work and paddleboarding. Yeah. And he's definitely not, and he's staying disconnected with his dates. And, I'd like to believe that Nate isn't lying and he's not playing anyone. He's not leading, he's not leading on. He's just like, I don't even know how to love. I can't possibly love you, girl I just met at a bar, but he's having sex probably. And so
I think that's so fun about these like first impressions, and why I like that they released the cast photos beforehand is because you already you have in your head what each cast member is going to be. Yeah. But then you see the character development and you're like, oh my God, wow. That is not at all who I thought.
If you were feeling really vulnerable, Rod, and you just poured your heart out and, and they responded with, you're something else. Like how would you feel? Would you feel?
Like why would I'm not giving him a rose? Like that's just.
It was such a fascinating episode for me because again, we've praised Michelle so much for being so in tune and so like self-aware. And like when we interviewed her about, having learned from her past, and to me, and again, this is an edited show and they're going to want to run interference. And despite us, they had Michelle be like, I'm in love with you. So I don't know how much interference they're running in terms of wanting us to think it might be Brandon.
Oh, it's wintertime, but fear not, Rumhaven is here to keep your parties tropical and feeling like paradise. That's right. Perfect for mixing to great cocktails or for enjoying on its own, which, as you know, that's how I enjoy my Rumhaven. It's made with real coconut water. That's amazing. It's got no added preservatives, artificial flavors.
And it's like holiday time is sweet drinks, but a lot of the really sugary ones make me feel terrible the next day. And I feel like Rumhaven's like coconut water.
It's delicious. It's fun. Your friends will love it. You'll make wonderful cocktails like the Haven on Hearth, the Haven in Hell, the Cocajito, the Havenly Cider. So many options. And again, it's just delicious on its own. And your friends will love you for it. It will give you that party, that tropical feeling you so desire. Discover more recipes that will help you sip into paradise at rumhaven.com.
It very much comes across the past couple of episodes with Michelle and Nate that there's a lot of like red flags there for Michelle. And she's basically said, like we all have done in our lives, I'm going to try to figure out how I can turn these clear red flags into green flags or call them something else. And I'm just going to ignore them and I'm going to manipulate myself into thinking there's something else other than clear warning signs because this is what I want.
Yeah, I feel like that it's almost like we're going in reverse, with the earlier episodes of like, I just want to get to know these people more. Where I feel like she kept Nate and Brandon because she's getting to still know them, right? And there's been a little bit of hesitancy where Joe was like, no, I know what I want, and it's you. And so for her to let go of Joe is just a complete surprise to keep, especially Nate, who was like, what did he say? What did you keep saying just a moment ago?
You're something else.
Something else. Yeah. Like, what?
Well, realistically, again, every season's different, but, I knew I had decided I was going to pick Vanessa earlier on, and I don't think I think I'm more the norm than the minority in terms of knowing where your pick are, what your pick is certainly going into hometowns and fantasy suites. So like the fact that Nate is kind of revealing some of these red flags. I mean, Vanessa revealed red flags to me that like, I certainly was like, oh shit, fuck, I don't know. Like, maybe it's just this world, like maybe and this is not a criticism towards Vanessa. We all have our red flags, but I saw some things that made me worry about our ability to be successful in the real world. And I was just like, fuck it. I've decided to do this. This is what I'm doing. And I like to think of myself as self-aware and learn from my mistakes and learn from my red flags. So like what I'm saying Michelle is doing, I'm no different, but it is fascinating to watch Michelle seemingly ignore what seems to be so clearly obvious. I mean, it's just like if she ends up with Nate, the odds are stacked against anyone who's falling in love for the first time on a reality TV show to try to make a relationship that's already very hard to make work, having, to watch this back, maintain and grow and build a relationship like in a spotlight, very challenging stuff. And so,
but I don't think she necessarily like ignored the fact that, his stepdad said that he hasn't been in love. Like her whole like kind of voiceover before the dinner portion, she was like, I had a great day with him, as I always do when I spend time with Nate. But like, these are crucial questions, and I'm going to ask him the tough questions. Like, I truly think that if he would have given her like wishy-washy answers or like not been all in, he probably would have been the one going home. I don't think she's necessarily ignoring the red flags.
I think you're right. She definitely addressed it. Like, well, it's part of the show too, and they're going to be like, well, you got to ask Nate about this stuff. So there is that. And in life, we've all been there. Like we've dated people and we see it and we want to tell ourselves we're going to address it. We want to feel like we're not ignoring red flags. And we've all been there where we're like, all right, I'm going to address it. But you don't really, and there was a point like on the dinner date with Nate where like after like Michelle was like, I feel the same way. And Nate was like, it was basically like, phew. Nate basically audibly said like, oh, thank God. All right, finally, you finally believe what I'm saying, And I don't think Nate's being insincere. I just think this is clearly a guy hasn't done this before. This is new for him. And, what a bizarre way to do it for the first time.
Yeah, I think it's been an interesting progression for Michelle this season as well, because we've seen up until now her play the teacher with these little children that are on the show. And I feel like now with this episode, she's finally able to be her adult self, and just like we're able to see how she would be in a relationship.
Yeah, she's very vulnerable right now. Like you could see her vulnerability with Nate, like the kind of the desperation of like, say the right thing, please.
Yeah.
Say the right thing.
And like you have the X factor. Like I think part of it is maybe like thinking about what kinds of things Michelle views as like fixable or coachable or navigable, and what stuff it's like you either have it or you don't. And I think Nate just like has the X factor. And I think because she's someone who's spoken about her ability to coach, it makes sense to me that she would be like, okay, well, all this other stuff like we can work on together. You can't create this magnetic chemistry if it's not there.
Yeah, I think Michelle is definitely charismatic too, which is good. But I think Nate would be someone to bring more out of her, because she would be him being a little bit more reserved and stuff. She's having to, open up more and be more of a voice than he might be right now.
Yeah, but it's kind of fascinating because Michelle has talked about not wanting to do that in her next relationship. But I mean, Vanessa was very much like every other girl I dated in the past. So like I said before, on this world in a limited time, as much as you want to think you're going to use this opportunity to like
break patterns
and walk a new path, it's kind of fight or flight mode. And you're like, fuck it. I'm going to do what I know and hope it's different this time.
Yep.
And
that's when you present it with two people or three people, right? And two people that are a little different, and like one might be, oh, it's going to push me out of my comfort zone. But like at the end of the day, you are faced with this moment, like, but do I want to be safe and just know what I can already work with? Yeah.
And again, we like Nate, and Nate seems like when we say red flags, we don't mean like, oh, he's a bad guy or anything. It just seems like in a relation, fast forward 6 months from now, there might be fights about her constantly feeling like she's the one coaching and guiding the relationship forward when it comes to connecting emotionally. Like Michelle will be the one guiding the emotional, whatever the work you need to do in a relationship.
Initiating those conversations. I feel like, and just kind of being the adult in the room. Like, not to say that Nate, but I just think compared to the two of them,
his stepdad called him immature. So I feel like we don't have to tiptoe around suggesting that maybe Nate is slightly underdeveloped emotionally relative to, say, maybe other people his age.
Or we have no idea, which is in itself, kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's just more Michelle's gonna be like, hey, let's talk about, our feelings. And then Nate would be like, all right, can we go paddleboarding? Nate, he's doing his best, but there's some concerns. But there was something about the hubris around, it's a fine line in this world, the hubris around Brandon and Joe. And it always gets it's kind of a losing battle. Are you supposed to act demure and unsure of yourself when you're confident in a relationship with someone you're hoping to get engaged with, and they're, you know what I'm saying? So that's an appropriate level of confidence. And yet we so often watch this show under a lens of have a little more grace, man, with your connection. There's two other guys here. And, it's tough. It's probably unfair to criticize Nate, but for whatever reason, he was fucking with Brandon.
Yeah, Rod, what did you think about the whole Brandon versus Nate conversation where it's I think first is the best to go, I think third is the best to go, the order conversation?
I think that kind of still shows the immaturity, that these men have, which was I think it was a really good point to put that in though, because it does keep the dynamic going of who really is she going to pick? You know, there's like one clear better than the other guy. But this whole roommate situation has been interesting to watch, especially with.
Yeah, it's something new they did where they started doing a Peter Weber season, and they did it because the Maddie Pruitt storyline of the Virgin storyline, and it was like, no, we should keep doing this. This is really mean and cruel, and it makes for like it always gives you an awkward TV moment.
Because that's the best part of the show is like seeing that other people interact. And that, to be honest, it's great that they're interacting with obviously the Bachelor, Bachelorette, but like with Katie's season, like we never saw Justin and Blake interact in the final episode. You know, I think that would have added an extra dynamic to the show. So I think it was definitely an interesting conversation and still showed the immaturity that we all have, but you know, that they definitely need to work on, which could kind of create who is she really going to pick? You know, if this is the side that we're seeing of them.
It's weird too, because you can tell they all kind of like each other. They don't seem to. There's no like rivalry root other than the obvious awkwardness. Would you rather go first, second, or third?
I think I would rather go first.
That's what I always said. So I was always happy when I was going first, but like never worked out.
I think going first is it's a good place to be in. You get they have a clear head. You know, you're getting them when they have a clear head, you know, and then you're making an impression. You always remember the first and the last, not necessarily the middle, is what they say.
Well, now we know the second spot is jinxed anyways, so don't go for
If you were the Bachelor, though, would you want your first to go first or last? Your favorite to go first or last?
Favorite? I want my favorite to go last.
See? Isn't that interesting how that changes when you...
I feel like it depends on how confident you are about.
I'm not confident. We all know it for my content. I'm self-deprecating. So it's like, no, I'll be like, no, they're not going to pick me anyway. So I'm going to go first and just give a last fight for it, you know?
Or it's also like, if you really think it's someone, then you might want to put them first, because then it's like, okay, we're locking it down. Now I know how to proceed in the other fantasy suites. Like if you have someone who you're like, I'm pretty sure this is my person, then like maybe not trying to fuck the others.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I asked this as someone who's like thought a lot about this, being in it twice, like going into fantasy suites. I was like, I hope I go first. Even in the second time, I still wanted to go first.
Does the lead pick the order? Do you like tell producers this is who I want to see in what order?
The lead definitely has some say at that end, but I'm trying to think back.
You have to make a good TV too, though.
Yeah, but like, you know, but at that point, like the dates are kind of all whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, earlier on, the dates are, it's not a coincidence that they're like tailor-made for the person who's like afraid of heights or who dealt with a certain kind of death and, you know, something that can trigger them. And those are all kind of like set up to like, you know, as much as they can, not always, but if there's a fit for someone on an early date, they'll go on that date because it doesn't really make a difference. But when it comes to fantasy suite dates, like they're not all that much different. Like I can confidently say that if a lead like had a strong feeling about the order in which they hoped their person would go, they would accommodate that. But I think I'm trying to think back when I was the Bachelor. Yeah, I think I was down to have Vanessa go last. It's like you know you're going into this week, you know, depending on what you want to do, right? Like, are you going to have sex? Are you not going to have sex? You anticipate that the people you're going into the room with might want to have sex. How do you handle that? How do you potentially reject that and still want them to believe that you're going to pick them without giving yourself away? So you're very, like, I don't know. I was very stressed. I assume most of my peers felt the same way. And I think there's a level of trying to get through the first two so that you can really enjoy the person you want to pick on the last fantasy suite, because there's definitely a survival mode with the first two.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're not going to get physical.
I think it's probably relief for Michelle knowing her fantasy suite date on Matt's season was butter, right? Like they covered themselves up in butter.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. So like I was thinking about when I was watching this episode, I'm like, she's getting her redemption, you know, just enjoying her time, because that would have been miserable.
I also like that they whipped out the classic, like, fireworks to fuck with the others. Like, you know,
my
the
God,
once a season move.
Go ahead.
And I just love that it was branding. So I was like, this fairy tale moment is going to mean the world to him. And I'm really glad that he gets it.
All it made me think about is how such a small thing. I mean, you have Nate and Joe just being like, it's very much you just try to not think about it, out of sight, out of mind. And it's already a weird world. And then you see these fireworks, and imagine like going on a date with someone or imagine being in a relationship with someone, because they all really feel like they have a relationship with Michelle. And then to just see fireworks, knowing what they're for and knowing what, like, it's like those fireworks are basically the equivalent and maybe worse than having like a camera on the date and watching it, because it's worse because you have your imagination, right?
That would be.
And you're just like the fireworks are basically saying some version of what you hate is going on right now, but we'll let your imagination, take care of the rest. But it's happening in that moment, and it's such a small but powerful tool. The fireworks were not for Brandon and Michelle.
They were not. And that's why I'm sure she's going to pick Nate, because I think that was her being like kind of like needling Nate a little bit.
Oh, she has nothing to do with that.
I feel like it's like intentional that she would want to give it to Nate,
I'm telling you, unless you want to argue with me about the production of the show.
Yeah, I know better about the lead of the show, Nick.
You're like, as a lead, you don't even know when fireworks are going to happen.
Okay.
They just happen. And you're like, oh, cool, we get fireworks. Like, it might happen all the time. Like,
I think it worked out perfectly to mess with Nate.
They're not running that by. They're like, hey, and Nick, there's going to be fireworks. Which one do you want to have fireworks? They're just not micromanaging that. There's just too much going on.
I like to believe that like every little detail is like within someone's control and like a creative choice on the lead's part.
Same.
Definitely not the lead's part.
Like the food fight, I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like someone falls down the stairs. It's like production.
But I love that you have that, belief, that energy.
The imagination.
The imagination is great. I will say, going into Joe's one-on-one, so Brandon and Michelle, Brandon's just like, I'm falling in love with you. He's very effusive. Michelle doesn't hesitate. She's like, I'm falling in love with you too. Michelle was very generous with her words. And like every time I watch these interactions, it's hard not to think about how I was. And I said I was falling for Rachel and Raven, but credit to Michelle, like she said it in a way that made me believe what she said to Brandon much better than I believed myself. And granted, I was saying it and I didn't believe it at the time. I don't know what people thought watching it back when I said it to Rachel, but like Michelle seemed really affected, by those words. Now, maybe it's because Brandon is so it's hard not to feel special when Brandon is telling you you're special.
Yeah, she said there are people who say they would do anything for you, and then there's Brandon. Like he's just like the next level.
So I really believe that. And then so I was worried about immediately as like going into Joe's date. I'm like, fuck, Joe's getting the second date. Like this fucker's going home. And yet on the date, I was like, oh no, like they had me convinced that I was like, no, I guess I was still worried for Joe, but still as a viewer, and I get defensive because like having been in Michelle's, like it's frustrating when people are like, I think you should pick so-and-so. It's just like, congratulations who you think I should pick. Like it's a TV show. Either way, I don't want to pick this person. So like, whatever. But yet I couldn't help but be like seeing what seems to be a really good match with Joe and Michelle on this date. It's always nice to see like, someone's strengths and weaknesses, and Joe being a quiet person. Yeah, I'm sure it's been a strength and a weakness for him, but like clearly Michelle wants him to give more. And so he's yelling and ziplining. And it seemed like I love the effort from Joe. Like he was like, I need to do this because I know she wants me to do this and I love her. So I want to do this for the person I love. And Michelle's like, he's doing it because he loves me. And it was like such a nice little moment. And I don't know. It was like, I don't know. What did you think, Ra? Were you?
Yeah. I think like even the top four, I was like, man, any of these guys could get it, and it's just, I think everything changes, you hear that in the show a lot, but I think everything that happens on the show, it's like something new could happen, so all that to say, I was shocked to see Joe go home because I definitely thought he was going to be the one, but even between these last two, it's like, I know she picks Nate, but even with Brandon, it's like, it could be a wild card and she ends up picking him.
Also, like the next morning with Joe, it seems spicy.
The food fight.
Brandon had a hoodie on, Joe's shirtless in bed. Like if I'm Nate, I got some questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So like Joe looked like a stud there.
Mm-hmm. I'm like, wearing the same outfit as the night before.
I also feel like they should have played basketball, in my opinion. Like I think if they'd played basketball, Joe wouldn't have gone home. Because I think and I'm fixated on this, but like in the season when Michelle watched Joe play basketball, I think there was I think that's what reminds her of home. Like, I think that is what reminds her of like how deeply they have like this like shared language and experience that the two of them can understand. And like, I just
listen in my perfect world, and Katie has shown us, Ari has shown us, Pilot Pete has shown us that the person they pick might not be the person they're best matched with, even among the people casted, Big fan of Hannah Ann, but like clearly that was maybe like Pete's fourth best connection, right? Katie, ran through Blake and is now dating someone she sent home like week 2. Kelly didn't make it to hometowns. So in my dream world, Nate and Michelle get engaged. They just Nate's just like, I do love you, but like also I don't even know what that means. And I got paddleboarding, and Michelle's like, I don't want to teach you how to do this. And then she runs into Joe at the grocery store, and he's out like hooping, and like, Joe's hooping, and like, he misses for the first time out of 20, and it bricks, and it rolls off, and like the basketball rolls, and it's Michelle's foot stops it.
Pan up.
And she's like,
at the grocery store.
She's like, and one, and they like play a game of horse, and like loser has to give the winner a kiss, and they fall in love, and we can watch their story,
I think this
unfold.
might be the first ever part 2. Michelle's Bachelorette part 2.
That's my dream, because like who knows if Michelle's right for any of these guys, whatever. Yeah. But I believe, sometimes like this, like other seasons, right? Like, with Katie's men, it's just like, I don't know. I think Blake was really into Katie, but like, I don't know, like the connections, I don't know, but like Brandon for sure. And then Joe, he's quiet, so harder to read. You don't, maybe is this guy, but I really felt like this episode, Joe was just like, I believe Joe's feelings for Michelle. I felt like he really wanted this to work. Like I really bought it, and I felt like he was really sad. I mean, this is the son of a man who at hometown is like, so what do you want to talk about? His dad's like, I'm good. It's like a man of few words, and yet Joe is really giving it his all. And it just, like my heart endured for him.
I think his fight back to like prove that he's not who he came in when she was like, oh, you left me on red. He's like, and then he said in the first episode, I'm going to prove to her that I'm not who she thinks I am. And then he did. And then he didn't get the rose.
Yeah. And I really appreciate Joe being like, what is nice is that this seems like, if nothing else, this was a really good thing for Joe. Like this experience isn't always good for everyone, but I feel like Joe really kind of branched out, got out of his shell, got out of his comfort zone. And I feel like my hope for Joe is that he will lean on this experience and keep pushing himself, because it seemed like he recognized the growth he showed in this short period of time. And I thought that was also fun to see, even though Michelle decided not to see it or appreciate it.
It was like, honestly, it was like Dumbledore dying when Joe didn't get a rose. I was like, oh my God. Like this person who I've always thought, like, because he's just so solid. And so I think it was, and I think it also, like, to me, the fact that Michelle has like Joe and Brandon, like, to me, that is the biggest indicator that Nate has something really good going on. If like those are the things that Michelle is passing up in favor of.
Yeah.
Because they're more similar than Nate.
Totally.
Joe.
Yeah,
And like Rodney, like I think you could group like Joe, Rodney, Brandon, like all three of the other ones are all like rock solid people who it seems like are really great partners. And so if she's going to pick Nate over them, I must assume that there are moments where Nate has like proven his ability to be a good partner.
Well, it's kind of fascinating, right? Because like Nate is going to be just another first impression rose winner, right? We've talked so much about what?
Nailed it. I forgot he was the first impression rose.
Groundbreaking.
And you know, we've talked so much how the Bachelorette has a better track record than the Bachelor, and I think that's true only because Sean Lowe is still the only person to still be with the person they actually picked. I mean, Ari's with
and Jason, right?
Yeah, they're both with their runner-up, so that's still something, but not the person they picked. But as time has gone on, you got JoJo and Jordan, and then you got and then you had a couple. You had a divorce with
JP.
Yeah, Ashley and JP.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they had kids and got divorced.
Yeah.
So like that was
They were together a long time.
You know,
Counts. It's like if you have kids together, counts.
But I guess since the string of first impression rose winners started with Kaitlyn. That's when the streak started with Sean. Not dating, and then we had JoJo still dating. Brian and Rachel are still dating. Becca not dating. Katie not dating. Tayshia not dating.
Claire
not dating.
Proof true. Very, very true in Claire's case.
Well, Tayshia didn't pick her first impression rose person. I mean, that guy. That guy's part of the.
To be fair, though, I don't feel like that breaks the streak necessarily, because that was just such a weird season of her coming in.
Outlier.
Yeah.
No, but I'm saying for the people who picked their first impression rose, and I'm just saying like, you know, the way we're describing Rodney or Joe or Brandon, and you know, we talk so much about the relationships on the show. It's just like it seems like, and again, The Bachelor is such an imperfect world, and I'm as guilty as anyone for saying, out of the limo, bam, like, this is my crush. I can't get out of my head of like my crush. I want to make this work. This is who I want. I want to convince myself to have all these qualities, and I'm going to keep getting to know all these other quality people along the way, and I'm going to be impressed at times, and I'm going to grow connections. I'm going to find this respect, but like nothing is going to allow me to overcome that like immediate crush I have of getting out of the limo. And it really makes you wonder about like the strength of the choice, because back to what we were talking about before, I don't know if it ever really mattered what Joe or Rodney or Brandon said or how strong they were. Nate was so far ahead after night one
that it was like going to be confirmation bias.
It was going to be confirmation bias the whole way, even with someone like Michelle.
Yeah, I mean, even on the other side of it, like even if we're going off first impressions, like Rick came out in a table, and usually those dates or those impressions are like the ones that get sent home night one, but he went pretty far, and you know, he was a crowd favorite. So it is just crazy how the first impression rose could like legitimize someone so much more, you know, as a contestant.
Yeah, it's it is kind of fascinating.
Rod, have you ever thought about what you would do for an entrance if you were on the show?
I've always thought it'd be funny to already be in there. in the house.
Feel like
and
turn around.
They walk in, like Michelle would walk in, and she'd be like she would get in there. She's like, oh, I forgot who he was. I don't remember meeting him, you know, the whole night. And then like pull her aside, be like, we didn't actually meet. And then I would get quality time, because then she'd want to get to know me in that moment, because I already had made such an impression on her.
That's a great idea. I wonder.
That's genius.
It's good. Now I wonder, I'm thinking from a producer standpoint, if you pitch that, right? Because they always ask, like, what do you want to do? Like they would give you the opportunity to pitch that to them. Nice. And I'm wondering if what they would say to that, because like, are you taking, I think make that work.
Or if I would go on the side and like meet Kaitlyn and Tayshia first, be like, hey guys, and just like walk past and walk right inside and sit down. And then they would have their own little moment of like, they're quirky, like, oh my God, what's happening? Is this like someone sneaking in? All this stuff ends up.
A girl did that once where she just like silent, like walked in.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
She
but
was
it's different
silent.
from what you're pitching. Don't worry,
Oh,
Rob.
she like walked past
Out,
the
dropped
Bachelor.
out the limo.
Yeah, past was like quiet, and it was
more
a
of
bold move.
It was more of a, I'll see you inside.
Yeah, it was like,
yeah.
find me. You know, you want to get to know me.
No, I think I would do it like more like sweet, like, oh, hey, can I steal you for a second? And then her be like, yeah, I have to remember who this guy was. And then I would play it up a little bit, be like, yeah, so it's great to meet you. And like, we actually didn't meet, and then.
Yeah, be like, what's my name?
You know, it'd be kind of meta, and I don't think they would allow this if you like, the producers always wear all black.
Mm-hmm.
So if you dress like a producer.
What about holding a boom mic?
Yeah. And then you like rip off the all black. It's like one of those onesies you rip off, and it's like a full on suit, and you have a rose, and you're like, and she legit doesn't know if you were a producer or are a producer
You
because
do like 2 weeks in,
Yeah,
you really play the long game.
I'm giving her like, oh, like I heard this, Rod.
and you're like full on talking shit about all these guys, and you're thinking. She's like, I don't know.
I planted the notes in that guy's room. Like,
you're just like, I just think Nate's a fuckboy. I don't know. I'm just saying. I get a weird vibe. And you're like, she's like, really? What do you know about Nate? And she's believing you more because she thinks you're a producer.
And then you document the whole thing with a GoPro.
Yeah.
And you kind of have a producer look to you. You
like,
the beard, the beanie. Yeah, you have a
all black.
What did we think of Brandon pulling Michelle
Before the
What do we think about that?
It was a move.
I would have liked it more had he gone home.
Mm-hmm.
Like, had he gone home?
Well, he didn't know.
Yeah, I know. I'm just
In Amanda's world, it's all simulation.
I just mean that, like, or I don't know. I think if it had felt like he was really reading the room and really was like, I'm going home and I just want to make sure this doesn't torture her. Like, did you think it was like, I guess the question to pose is like, did people think it was an angle or did people think it was him really just genuinely wanting to communicate that he wouldn't be upset?
Yeah, well, if you to call it an angle, that would be like we all, that's like saying giving someone flowers is an angle, like.
Yeah, or like rather, was it something that was like him trying to get time with her again to like
solidify,
show his love in that way?
I wish I knew
maybe a
their
little bit of both, but I will say, like, if I were Nate and Joe, I'd been irritated. Sean did it on a rose ceremony on Kaitlyn's season, and I was just like, "It's fuck, bro," So you're certainly irritated if you're the other two guys. Mm-hmm. In defense of Brandon, though, his words were good.
He knows how to use his words for sure. I would naturally want to do that, because I would automatically, again, think that I'm like, okay, well, I'm not getting it. It's after seeing Joe, who she's had chemistry with the whole season, and then Nate too. Well, she has chemistry with Brandon too, but like these other two guys, we're shocked that Joe went home. So I could see being an angle to solidify, like, hey, I'm still in it.
Now, if you're Brandon, mm-hmm. like Michelle was like crying. So like when Brandon's saying this, Michelle, I was like, oh shit, maybe Brandon is going home. Because it sure came across as he's saying all these beautiful things and Michelle knows that she's going to hurt him. And even though Brandon got a rose, you can't be feeling all that great, because Nate wants Nate wants Joe and Brandon to know that he's going to win without saying it. Like he has such like, I don't give a fuck, I'm not worried, his bravado, like, and so you're Brandon and you're saying all these things, like if all these beautiful things, and she is crying, looking like, I know I'm going to break your heart. Mm-hmm. And if you're Brandon, like, how do you not see that? Like, if you were saying these things, how would you want that person to respond?
It's almost like he set himself up, not for failure, but like when he doesn't win now, it's like, man, I really could have taken that chance to like, because she could now have that in the back of her head, like, oh man, I panic chose Brandon, and that now it's solidified that it's Nate, where before it could have been a more like natural decision.
Yeah. I don't know if it really changed her mind at all. Like, so I'm 100% convinced that it did not have anything to do with her
So you think
decision.
she walked in knowing that Joe was going home?
Yeah. And again, back to everything we just talked about before, like she was very quick to say that she was falling in love with Brandon. She had every opportunity to say it to Joe.
Sure.
When I think we have been blinded by Joe's beauty. I think we like Joe and Michelle better than Michelle's ever liked Joe and Michelle.
Sure.
Right. So I think it's been harder for us, the audience, to get on board with Brandon just because like we think it fits and we like it. Right. But for all we know, it was always Brandon over Joe. And knowing what we know now, and having been in Michelle's shoes, I would say it's probably more likely that it was always Brandon over Joe. It's just never been Brandon over Nate. But if you're Nate, Michelle kind of gave herself away in the fact that it's not going to be you at the end. Like, you got the rose, great, you beat Joe, but like that's as far as you're going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Poor guy. Well, we look forward to asking him all these questions.
Oh yeah, can't wait to hear it.
Speculation about engagement. It seems like that is the direct. Do people think?
I think yes.
Yeah, because before I thought like Michelle, I thought it was actually kind of a thread of the season. Was like, will she get engaged or not? Which just maybe.
Yeah, Michelle made it very clear that that's what she expects, and Nate's just going to kind of do whatever he thinks he should do, which is again probably a big picture concern. But all right, fine, fuck it. You want me to ask you to? Okay, whatever.
I'll take this Neil Lane ring and get down on the knee.
I don't think he wears his emotions on his sleeve, but I do think that he's still an emotional person. So I definitely see him getting down on one knee to propose.
Yeah, but more importantly, he's just kind of like easy. It's like whatever, man. Like as long as I get to paddleboard, it's like it's cool. Like.
3 to 5 times a week, right?
He actually like appears to like the platform to propose on the paddleboard and like jumps off. He's like, Michelle, hey.
But I'm just saying he's like clearly Nate hasn't given a lot of thought. So he's some people are just like, I'm only getting engaged once and like fuck, I've only known, they go through this whole like, engaged? I like you, I love you even, but like engaged, and Nate's just kind of like, I think you're just supposed to get engaged. Like, I don't know. I signed up for the show. So like
how this works, right?
Yeah. It's, the phrase, it's like, don't sweat the small stuff and it's all small stuff. I feel like that's how Nate lives.
100%.
He's like, it's all small stuff. Getting engaged, all small stuff.
He looks in the mirror every day and is like, I honestly have nothing to worry about. And that's kind of how, which is like, I'm so envious in so many ways of how like Nate goes about that life sometimes. I really, it's such a gift. I don't know. Someone like yourself, Rod, do you ever get envious of people like Nate who doesn't seem like they understand the word anxiety?
Oh, every day of my life.
Yeah. And maybe Nate does. We don't really know him. We don't want to diminish any struggles that Nate has, but
but I think what makes it better is I know that Nate wouldn't like belittle me for my anxiety. He'd be like, all right, man, whatever you got to do.
It's like, I'm good. Just give me, like, meet me out.
Someone like Martin would be like, suck it up.
Yeah. 100%. Rod, thanks so much for joining us. Please always let my audience know where they can find you.
Yeah. At Rod on TikTok, justme.rod on Instagram, and podcast launching beginning of 2022.
Ooh, officially. Great. Well, congratulations. Be sure to check that out. Don't forget to send your questions at asknick@castme.com, cast with a K, for Ask Nick episodes. And be sure to keep listening for a fantastic and insightful episode, All Things About Dreams, with Ian Wallace. Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. But before you go, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss any future videos, like our Mondays Ask Nick, especially if you're looking for some relationship stories and relationship advice, as well as our Wednesday interviews with your favorite celebrities and experts. See you next time.